The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, based on where you're located in the region. And thanks so much for joining today's webcast around Sage Operations Management with Scanco. My name is Ali Ortiz, and I'm the ISV Program Manager here at Sage. Just a few logistical items before we get started. The presentation will be around 50 minutes, so we will have time for questions at the end. So please enter those in the Q&A panel on your screen, and we'll make sure to get through those. The webcast will also be recorded, so we can distribute the recording in a PDF of the slides next week. With that said, I'll go ahead and pass it over to John Hoyt, presenting on behalf of Scanco, to kick off the presentation.
Thank you, Ali, and welcome everyone, and thank you for attending. And thanks to Scanco and Sage for asking me to present. I'm going to start with an introduction and overview of operations management in a pack of slides here. And then I'm going to go through the system. The first will be about 10, 12 minutes, and then we'll have a half hour to 40 minutes to look at operations management. And then we'll wrap up the end with questions. Operations management is customer order fulfillment, and that's through manufacturing, assembling, procurement, installation, and repair. Okay, sorry. And with operations management, we do that in a single integrated solution, job management from quote to shipping or installation and close, a reduction in project delays, minimization and optimization of costs, tracking real-time labor, materials usage, direct purchases, and other costs. And finally, the system monitors the status of each job throughout the production process. The types of industries that are good for operations management are custom manufacturers, including make, configure, assemble, and engineer to order, make to stock operations, and mixed modes. In addition, job shops are a good fit, and so are fabricators and value-added distributors. Production and project-oriented firms like engineers, designers, consultants, and printers, and service and installation businesses like systems integrators and repair and network installers. Keep in mind that there are a lot of operations management users that only track labor, but they use this for project management. They may not actually have items on their jobs. It actually doesn't fit real well with pure process manufacturers, batch formulas, and recipes. We have other packages for that. The common functions to these industries that use operations management are multi-mode operations. Make to order is really the real power of operations management, but it also does all make to stock, which is either a parent or assembly made for inventory or a sub-assembly made for a parent item. And value-added services. They purchase materials uniquely and directly to jobs. They use subcontractors for some or all of the work. And they need job scheduling and management of labor. Finally, they require real-time job management and status of each job. Here's a list of the Sage 100 modules that integrate with operations management. you'll note that the ones with a 1 on them are required. And so these are the financial applications and the distribution applications. We also add in there bill of materials, which is useful with this package, and mobility for barcode. Anything that is not compatible with the premium version, which is SQL, is not integrated, but here are some other of the modules that work with operations management. The Sage subscription bundle includes the base system, and in that is the ability to create work tickets, either make to order or make to stock, detailed costing, usage of material, after the fact labor recording, and advanced procurement capability with purchase to order functions. The second one is time tracker, which is actually time and materials. It has advanced data options in terms of tracking time, direct automation for employees, including scanning badges and on the work ticket and the work ticket. More tracking and status data is allowed directly by employees, and overlapping and dilution of time over multiple work tickets is a feature. The data collector is an advanced import function, more stringent than Visual Integrator, and it's for both labor and inventory items. It allows you to fix something that doesn't work in the import directly in the program rather than having to go back to your source data and fix it there. And then finally, it integrates with the Avalara Avatax function. Optional add-on modules are the product configurator, which is a features and options product with when you have many combinations of features. It eliminates the requirement for multiple SKUs, and we can create smart part numbers as aliases to determine and analyze sales. The second is enhanced scheduling. This is a true capacity scheduling, which is the strength of this module. And there's a graphical scheduling standard with drag and drop and what if planning. Manufacturing 100 Professional is a package from ScanCo, which allows you to scan data in either on the screen or on a handheld device. It automates basically everything that's in Time Tracker. Then finally, there's a field service and dispatch module from ScanCo, which has service tickets, a dispatch board, and service contracts. There are two third-party integrations. One is CAD Link from QBuild software, which links parts and bill of materials to work tickets directly. And there's JobPack, real-time scheduling analytics, which gives you a little more detail than what we have in our enhanced scheduling. I have some top 10 features, and we'll see some of these in the demo. Number one is this is a native make-to-order and custom manufacturing package. It does it really well, but in addition, of course, it does make to stock. The second is it has a seamless integration with Sage 100, meaning that purchase orders, sales orders, and work tickets are all integrated. You could do real-time transactions. This is what they are in using what's called dynamic inventory and labor. So when these are entered, they will connect, it will post to the work ticket on a real-time basis. We can have status code entry, tracking, and reporting. We cut purchase orders directly from work tickets. And there's an interactive flexible MRP, which we call Component Exception Manager, for inventory fulfillment and also creating subassembly work tickets. We can auto issue materials to work tickets. And we have an integrated serial number database, which automatically writes to it when you have a serial number that's distributed for either a part or a parent item. And we have cost summary and profit analysis directly on the work tickets. Finally, there's a complete detailed history of jobs, which really mirrors the open jobs when they go to history. I put together some trends basically in what people are starting to use more than they had in the past. The product configurator that I mentioned, it's used to be rare. Now we're looking at 4 or 5 new implementations of this a year, at least my experience. Enhanced scheduling is very big just because people need to be on top of when they can deliver their products. And then manufacturing 100 is getting to be much more popular because people want to automate this whole process of getting time and materials into the system. Also the CAD integration that I mentioned, and the final one is the projected demand. This has come about because of the supply chain issues and changes in how things are delivered, and basically large companies saying, I'm going to give you when I need my product. Okay, so let's go into the system. Okay. So operations management menus, most of the standard, it looks just like the standard for all modules. Here's operations management over here. There is no period end, you notice here, in terms of the major functions. This is because we depend on the integrated modules of sales order, purchase order, inventory, and the accounting applications. That's where we get our period end. There are definitely some period end tasks. One is to balance work in process, and we have a report which is called the WIP reconciliation report. And then we need to close jobs when appropriate each month. Operations management is designed exactly the same as Sage 100. It's user intuitive. It enhances the functionality of Sage 100, but we don't change the standard controls, postings, or flow of Sage 100. So we always start with the sales order, primarily because, and we do it whether it's a make to order, which is something being made for a customer, or a make to stock, which is made for inventory. This makes it a consistent process so that the procedures and workflow are the same, because the only difference in this is where these things go. Okay, I'm going to start a new order, and I'm going to make it a quote, because I'm going to show you how many ways we have to create this. And I'll select a customer. And here's where we put the work ticket class. I'm going to make this a custom one, make to order. And then I can go to the address. You'll notice if you're accustomed to sales order, there aren't a lot of things on here that are different than the standard. We have this work ticket button. We can print work tickets here in this work ticket class. So when I go to lines, I then also a couple different things. I have a couple of things up here, the work ticket checkbox, which will actually create it, and the number. And as you know, you can change this grid the way you need to. These are the two things I usually do. The other thing is I always make this wide because I want to see all the fields that are in addition in the secondary grid. So I'm going to select a parent item that I want to look to make here. And I'm going to make one of those. And what happens is when we check this box here, and here it asks me, first of all, do you want to make this from a template? Because I do have a template that is in the system. So I can do that. If I say no, I have a few other ways. I can make it manually, which means I have to create the steps and all the detail. I can create it from an open work ticket, which copies all the structure in, or I can make it from a history work ticket. So if somebody says, I just asked for this about 2 months ago, can you do the same exact thing? You can go back and find that work ticket and copy in those details. The final way is a configuration, and I don't have one of those for this, but I'm going to go back to the template and I'm going to select the same one. And it's now creating that work ticket. And I can edit that directly from here. And I can drill down into that work ticket. And here it is. I'm going to go through these details a little later. But what I'm going to do is look at a step recap, which shows us all the steps on this particular work ticket. And then I'm going to go up to a couple of places, summary, and the summary shows us original and revised budgets, any POs that have been cut, and you can go in between this and an open order. Specifically, I wanted to go to the profit analysis to show you that when you have a quote, you can open up a price adjust window. And this is where we can actually say, okay, do we want to charge $18.50 for this, or do we want to change our percentage of profit? Well, I'm going to say I want 25%. And you'll notice that it changed my revenue. It actually changed that on the quote on the sales order. So now I have a 25%. So I wanted to show that to you because that's something you can do on quotes if you need to. One more note is when you have scheduling, you can do a capability to deliver it. So you look at the schedule of all your other work, and you can do a quote and tell people, I can have this to you by the 15th of June. Okay, I'm now going to go back out to the sales order, and I'm going to just show you a configuration so you get an idea of what that does. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but you'll be able to look at the recording later. What this gives you is a set of features and options and a kind of a wizard here where you can actually choose these selections. And this works very well with things that have measurements that have, you know, these are in inches, but it could be any kind of measurement. So I'm going to pick 72. And then there's other ways to do this. Here's one where it gives you all the numbers. And then we get into options that we've defined. In this case, I can go to the first one, and I can only do a hollow corridor. I'm going to go in instead and go to oak, which gives me both options. So all of these are dependent on what the previous selection was. So I'm going to select that core, and then I have what kind of opening it is. And I can do a selection of an item and a quantity at the same time. And then I'm going to look at this, and then I can actually have glass in here. So I can say I want 4 of those. And I can do an etching, and then it's complete. Now, you'll notice here's a price. It prices it for you. You can show some extended text, which will appear on the sales order, and have a smart part number. When I generate that, I can now look and see what some of those things were that we put on there. So if I go to the parts, I will see there's the oak and there's the hinges. And so you see that it's created that for you. Okay, so that's just an example of what a configurator does. It's a very simple one. Okay, so I'm gonna go to one that we've already done so that I can go through and show you some of the tabs and this kind of thing. You'll notice when we go into, I've got 2 items on here, and you already saw that when I click the work ticket, it creates a work ticket. And this item here is what's called a chargeable item. You'll look at it later, and it was on this parent item. Chargeable items can be things like miscellaneous, like a design charge, a rush charge, but they also can be when you need to actually show everything that you have on there and charge separately for it, you can do that. Okay, I'm going to go into this work ticket. And remember, we had a step recap that shows us all of the steps. It shows us hours and labor budget, the materials. We can revise budgets here. And what I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to the summary again. And remember, that has all of this original revised budget. Once you revise a budget, which we've done at this point, original stays as it was. As I do purchase orders, they will appear down here. Here's my profit analysis. This is not a quote, so I don't see anything here. By the way, you can post labor to a quote in case it's something like a scoping of a repair or something like that, but no other transactions can be put on there. Okay, so let's just go to one step, which is I'm going to look at parts, and there's my parts entry. We show quantity required, which is committed in terms of inventory. Quantity used is when I actually have used it on the job and it moves it from inventory to work in process, and it relieves inventory on a real-time basis. And there's the cost. There's our item that is chargeable, so it opens up the unit price field. Okay, so if I wanted to look at one item, you'll notice it shows me inventory information down here as to what I have in stock. I really don't need to order anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a purchase order just for this one, and I click this button. And it brings up the primary vendor and lead times and this kind of thing. If I wanted to do multiple items, if I had them for this vendor, I could do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go back and just do this one. And then I can either select or create a new purchase order. It asks for this kind of information here. And then when I say that, it is there. Now, you'll notice instead of inventory information, I now see the PO. I can go out here to the PO, and if I look at lines, there's my board. And you'll also see here that there's a link, which is right here, to the work ticket, in addition to the link in here back, okay? And it is truly linked, okay? Also, we have a labor here, labor tab. This only shows you what's been posted. We post it through the time tracker, and then it will appear here. Direct costs are costs that you have in accounts payable that you want to charge to the work ticket, and they would appear here. And then we can do a status. It always has a new status when you start. And if I change status, I can go through something here, and I'm going to say purchased. And those are some sample type status codes. You make those up, and I can just put here PO. Okay. And then once I accept this and come back, you'll notice here's the status code here. If I go into status, you have a history of what's happened. We do a time and date stamp and who did that. Okay. And then we've seen summary and profit there. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, by the way, you have 999 steps, so that should be enough for a fairly large project. The only other thing I wanted to show on here is in the More tab, we have attachments. And these are basically pointing to locations on your server or hosted server. And for instance, I can look at a logo, which is small. I could look at a picture. And I have categorized these. You notice that I have picture. And then I can go and look at a CAD drawing. And I use the DWG True View from Autodesk to do this. Okay, so that I can look at it directly from my work ticket. There we go. So that could be it could be anything you need. It could be the original purchase order. It can be drawings. It can be procedures. That kind of thing. And so it makes a complete package for your work ticket. And when it's closed to history, all those things will follow it. Let's see. I wanted to then show you the time tracker. I have to get out of this or I won't be able to do that. Come on. Okay, so we go into operations management, we go to time tracker, and I'm going to do the multiple employee time entry. And it assumes that you might want to scan it. You don't have to, but you can. Let's assume I'm scanning this and this worker is in there, and I scanned the work ticket that we had, which was 1678. And it automatically brings in an activity code. In this case, this activity code is for configuring items. This is mostly labor. We control labor. We have standard rates. We have how to post it. We have any kind of overhead if we want to do that. So now what I've done is I have a starting time of 10:30, and he can just say okay and come back later. Okay, if I click this employee entry, you'll notice I see he's open. Okay, and I'm gonna get out of that. We can go into parts usage from that, or I can go in separately here. Depends on who is doing it. Okay, parts usage gives us the ability to issue all the parts for a work ticket. And I've picked the one that we had, and there's all our parts. We know right now that the board is on a purchase order, and we have some rules, but I'm going to do what's called auto issue. An auto issue allows you to issue all the quantities subject to some of these rules here. And I can also automatically distribute lot numbers if I need to, or serial numbers. So I'm going to hit proceed on this. The first one only has one in stock, so it'll give me one, but it won't give me the other one. And then it'll proceed with all the rest of the items on here. Okay, and once it gets to that point, I can then get out of that. So I'm going to go back to the work ticket and edit it at this point. Okay. And I'm going to show, let's see, I'm going to show, let's see if I see labor on here. Don't see that because he has not logged out yet. So, but if we go to parts, you'll notice now in quantity used, everything has been used and is in work in process except for this one here, and I haven't received this purchase order yet. When I receive it, it'll go directly into here. Now, if I go out here to time tracker and I go find my worker, it'll now put automatically in an end time, and I can hit OK. And then if I go back to this work ticket, we'll now see his labor on there, right there. Okay. So we're showing you the real-time posting onto the work ticket. Status codes, labor, parts are all posted on a real-time basis. Okay, so we don't always cut purchase orders. In fact, we rarely cut them directly for the work ticket. We have another function called Component Exception Manager, which is our MRP system. Want to clear that. Okay, so I can go out here and plan by inventory item. We can plan by inventory item or work ticket. Work ticket is for parts, or you can be planning in terms of identifying subassemblies that we need to actually create a work ticket automatically from here. So it has dual purposes. I'm going to plan by inventory item and only buying. I can put a cutoff date in, but I won't do that. But I do want to look at lead times for the vendor. I can do some filtering here, but I can also do filtering later. So we generate the work file, and then we can go and look at what it's going to present to us, which is items to buy. These are all the items that found either for stock right here or for work tickets that are need to be purchased. So if I notice here, here's the quantity on hand, any POs that exist, stock and work ticket demand, and then if any additional, if I do that. Okay, I'm gonna hold everything except this board, and then I can actually notice here that it wants me to buy 20, and we're looking at 22 on hand and 15 that are needed. And you're going, why do we need 20? Well, let's go down to the detail. And here are 3 work tickets. 2 of them we're going to pull from stock. One of them we are going to purchase this directly for that board. Okay, so there's my 15. I have a minimum stock or safety stock of 8. And if I go into inventory, you'll notice there's the 8 is our reorder point, but our minimum order quantity is 20, hence the 20 up here. And then on a date basis here, it will show me everything that's going on. Here's some promise dates for work tickets and what they're going to take out. So it's taking away from the quantity. And here is the purchase order that we created for the board. on my example previously. Okay, so I can actually keep everything held, and I can create a PO for this board. And if I go out to purchase order, take the last one here, and what you'll see here is you'll see separate lines. This is the one that's going to be specifically for that work ticket, and this is the remainder of the 20 that is going to stock. Now, if I had 10 work tickets that had a demand for this, I would see 10 lines. So when you do a receipt of goods, they'll populate those work tickets directly in the right places. Okay, so that's a pretty powerful module, and it is do typical MRP type operations. I mentioned earlier the serial number table, and if I go out to operations management, it's our equipment asset maintenance, and I can look at these. It's based on item code and serial number. And there we have that. You can have your own internal tags. You can have your warranty information. This was something that we sold right here to this customer. Additionally, here's the invoice number and what we sold it for. The rest of this parts, transactions, attachments, that is for the service and service type functions. But anything that is serialized, whether it's a part or it's a parent item, will automatically be put into this. Reports that we have for operations management. Again, I mentioned the WIP reconciliation report. We'll take a look at that. And it's going to be a pretty simple report because it's going to have one line per work ticket. And make it a little bigger. And it shows, for instance, here's the one we had right here, 167801. It has the inventory, WIP, miscellaneous, labor, direct, and total. It shows what's in WIP and what's been invoiced. Okay, and this is basically your how you're going to balance to general ledger. We have a more complex report, which is transaction detail, which actually shows you all the detail for a work ticket. And I'm gonna I'll make sure, and it looks at history or open work tickets. And we'll make that a little bit bigger. And you'll see up here, it shows you anything that's been invoiced and what costs have been relieved from WIP. It shows you the any labor and materials that have been posted to that. Okay, and that goes on and on, it's by step. We have a number of other reports here, material shortage, procurement advice, some other things like that. And, we also do usually typically anywhere between 5 and 10 custom reports because people want things that are a little more specific to their needs. Also, if you're familiar with the Explorer, we integrate with Explorer so that you can see the graphical, and there it is. And this is for work tickets. So I have a number of choices in terms of what I want to choose. here are all my work tickets. If I look at 1678, it will actually bring up the work ticket steps down here, and it's being slow. Oh, have to actually choose that. Okay. So, this works just like all of the Explorer views, and we have them for throughout operations management. The only other difference in the system from standard Sage 100 is when I want to do an invoice. So when I'm invoicing, make sure I don't have okay, can't have anything open. When I'm doing invoicing through sales order, and I'm going to pick my 1678. When I go to lines, this is what's different. It's looking at both of the items that we had on that sales order, and it's asking me, do I want to bill complete? You can do partials on a standard sales order, but it's going to ask me this. Now, bill complete means it's going to close it out to history. The sales order goes to history, the work ticket goes to history. We don't lose any of that detail. If I say no, it will bill it. It'll bill this quantity of two, but it won't close it. Now, what happens is what we're waiting for in some cases is we're waiting for lagging costs. It could be a supplier that didn't send an invoice. It could be some labor that didn't make it in because it was a remote location, something like that. So we typically will say no on this and then come back later, do a zero invoice to capture all of those costs into WIP and then be able to close it. So in this case, I don't want to deal with the second one, so I say skip. So when I say okay, then it wants to know if I want to ship those lines complete, and I say yes. And so let's see. Okay, and then when I do this invoice, it will invoice it. I got something that has to be distributed, a serial number. I have to put it in. Okay. Nope. I need to do that again. Wait a minute. Okay. 2. I had 2 of those. All right. Okay. All right. If I'd done it right, it would have distributed those. So we've got some of those changes so that you have a lot more flexibility in terms of what do I want to do when I invoice or ship that. Okay. So we're getting close to the end here. I don't really have, I've shown you reports. By the way, shipping data entry does work the same way it works in standard sales order. And you're able to do the same thing. When I said you want to ship complete, it's the same kind of thing. So that's most of what we have here. I'll show you one thing since we have a little bit of time, and that's the scheduling. So you get an idea of what we offer there. And this is what you're going to see is the scheduling control hub. Now I have to go to the dates that are where the data is, which is 2020. And we'll go there. Okay, this is graphical scheduling. I can do it by scheduling group. So if you have some related activity or operations center, you can put them in a group. And then I can hit accept. And some of this is as you can see, it's 2020 data, so it isn't fitting very well in here. This usually, when you have a gray area, it's going to be I don't work those days. Okay, you notice here's a operations center that doesn't work on Fridays. Okay, so that's why that's there. We have options with this, so we have different colors that designate, is something in time or not. Obviously, red is late, yellow is going to be late, green is fine. If I move forward or backward, I will find some others that might be late. What this does for us, though, is when we click on this, it also looks at like items here, and it's showing me the work ticket. And I can actually drag and drop things here. I can make changes. I can do scheduling of work tickets that have not been scheduled yet. And I can do some what if analysis. So I just look at this and I can look at all the detail of what's going on with that step right there, okay, which is step 10. Okay, I can go here and look at those, and that they have different ones that go with them. So if I wanted to move this over to Friday, I can do that. And it changes everything down here. It is changing the work ticket. Okay. Now the challenge of capacity scheduling is you have to really concentrate on it. You have to be able to say complete on steps. You have to make sure that people's time is available or not available, and free up those things. So it's a great system. It does exactly what it says, but behind the scenes, it requires a lot. Okay, so unless it's something that that's your key thing you want, which I have people that are getting it just for that. It might be something you want to look at, in a couple months after you've implemented. Okay, that's it. And now Allie's going to have a poll question.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll question really quick. So if you guys can take the time to go ahead and answer that, that would be great. So it's, would you be interested in a personalized demo of Sage Operations Management for your organization? Yes, over the next month. Yes, over the next 1 to 3 months. Maybe, but I need more information first, or not at this time. So I will go ahead and leave that open for a few more seconds so you can get your answers in. We'd appreciate it. All right, I am going to go ahead and close it out. So thank you to everybody who participated. And John, it does look like we have a few questions. So we have a bit of time to go over those.
Okay.
If you are cool with that. So the first one is it possible to create emails to be sent to specific departments? For example, if a sales team creates an order that needs to be invoiced, is there a way for someone to designate an email address or group to send this information to?
Okay. The best solution for that kind of thing would probably be Sage Alerts and workflow, because it is very granular in terms of looking at something that's happened within the system. We do have abilities to send emails, which are usually for repair people, but there are some capabilities within the system. But if you want to automate it, then it's probably best to have alerts. Alerts is probably as useful or more useful with operations management. It's of course great for things like somebody's bill is overdue or that type of thing, but there's so much going on in production that it's probably better to have that kind of a capability. And of course you can then create reports that get attached to the email. Okay.
All right. The next question is, can you post budgeted hours as actual hours?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Can you post budgeted hours as actual hours?
Yes, you can. You can. You know, it's not necessarily automatic. I have someone who does exactly that, and we don't do it automatically, but you can have a generic employee and put that time in, and that's what they do for all their jobs. It is not time consuming, but they use that right now. That would be more like backflushing of time, and that function isn't specifically in the package. So I would use a generic set of employees and codes.
Thank you. The next one is, with the time trackers, are you able to have it deduct from a preset service contract at the respective rates?
Not sure. So you want to be able to track, we're giving you 8 hours per month or something like that. Okay. Off the top of my head, I don't know quite how to answer that. There's a couple of possibilities. Let me.
I can give you the contact and you can follow up.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Okay.
Great. And then, what reports are designed to provide data on finished goods / parent item numbers? All reports I've seen is by work ticket.
You want to see a report on what's been finished and gone into inventory. Then that's what you're looking at. Yeah, you're going to see all of the information you would see in the inventory inquiries and looking at an item, and be able to actually see what work tickets created those. So, and we have fields in there to look at work tickets information.
Okay. And I think that's all of the questions that we have for today. So that will go ahead and conclude our webcast. John, thank you so much for walking us through the presentation and demonstration. And to everyone else, thanks so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.